Hey guys, what's up? It's Katie, and I'm back with another Marvel Contest of Champions video, and I'm making this Act 5 series, and I'm making this Act 5 series for a few reasons. First one is that I have gotten a lot of questions about Act 5, and I'm actually kind of finding them hard to answer because it was so long ago when I went through Act 5, and there's also a lot of newer players out there who are looking for Act 5 content with champions, relevant to 2019. So with this series, I'm going to try my best to, explain and walk through Act 5 with the paths, bosses, nodes, and relevant champ information to 2019. So for this video, we are going to be looking at Act 5.2.6 Abrogation. Now, I will not be going through each path in a video. I may do that in later chapters, but in 2019, these chapters are pretty straightforward and that sort of thing. Also, from this point on, I will be putting timestamps on for whatever paths I do record in the description below if you want to jump to a certain path and look at it. So if you're looking at stuff for the collector, go to this timestamp. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go over this spreadsheet that I've created for Act 5. It's in the description of the video. It's an active spreadsheet. I will be updating it as we go, so feel free to make any suggestions in the comments to this video and I'll take a look at them and edit it on as we go. So if we take a look at it here, I've got all the paths laid out and I've made a map here that has the paths. They're all color coded to go with the descriptions. It's got a list of the nodes, the champs that you'll be facing, and a description of the nodes. So there's also the map here, which you can go ahead and click on, download it, and use it to your advantage so that, when you're scouting out your path, you know who you're going to be coming across, what nodes you're going to be coming across, and who to bring in. So now a lot of the buffs in the first few fights of the chapter, they're pretty straightforward, but as we get into the later chapters of Act 5, they're gonna get a little bit more tricky. So when you complete one pass through this map, you will become uncollected and you will open a whole new game experience. Luckily, you only need to go through this once to get that, that title and those perks that go along with it. So when people always ask me what they should do, if they should just make one pass and move on or 100% this chapter first, I always answer for them to move on, reap some of the uncollected rewards, build your roster, and then come back when you are more prepared. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at the global nodes that we have here. And we've got role reversal yet again. It's basically the same in all of Act 5. And I've got a little pet peeve about Act 5, or not about Act 5, excuse me, about role reversal. So role reversal, that's basically the class relationships are switched. So when you first load up your champs, it would appear here that Hyperion has the class disadvantage to Ghost Rider, Cosmic versus Mystic, but with role reversal, they're switched. So I kind of feel like that those little arrows should be switched. I don't know. It's a little pet peeve of mine. It's just one of those things, I guess, that I have. So anyway, moving on. Okay. And the next node that we have is Bane, which again is the same as 5.2.5, and that's whichever champion lands the first hit will place a debuff on the other champ that deals 2.5% of their current health as direct damage, and then it transfers after so much time. So this is a tricky node. It requires you to pay more attention to a fight than normal. Hopefully by now you're used to the Bane mechanic. I know it was, when it was first introduced, it was a little bit more difficult, but we found it in other, aspects of the game, in Event Quest, in Alliance Quest, that sort of thing. So even new players are now accustomed to it. Now, there are several ways to deal with Bane. Timing your combos and specials with the Bane timer to reduce the time that it's applied to you is the best strategy when using any champ. So for instance, you may parry an opponent, but not attack immediately, so your 5-hit combo will end as soon as the Bane timer does. And also using champs with long specials and specials that have like a high hit count, can also be a good way to work around that Bane. And we'll look at some, ways to counter the Bane node when we look more at the videos. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the map here. So you can see I've got all 6 paths laid out, and there are specific nodes that are associated with it. So like most of the other maps, there are no links to the boss, the boss right here, this is the Collector. So now this is the first chapter that has 6 paths, and over the normal 5 that you have been seeing, paths 1 and 2 are probably the most easy. They have more fights and use more energy, but the nodes are easier in my opinion, and you only have to go through Spider-Gwen before getting to the Collector, whereas the other paths you'll have to face Iceman and Scarlet Witch. So if this is your first run through, I would definitely suggest taking paths 1 or 2. Now let's talk about Spider-Gwen. Spider-Gwen, here she is here. She has Unblockable Special 1. Now, when she was first introduced, she had a 0 damaging joke of a Special 1, and Kabam placed her here as kind of sort of like a troll because we all used to clown on her Special 1 all of the time. But since then, she has been reworked and her Special 1 can cause some damage. So she is much harder now than what she was when this map was first released. So definitely be wary of that. Now, also with this with this map, you'll have to fight either Kang or Spider-Man every time. Me, personally, I prefer to fight Kang, so I only have to kill Spider-Man once, and then I'll just go through Kang the other 5 times. If you have a good anti-evasion champ, you may want to choose to fight Spider-Man 5 times and Kang once. It's your decision. It's choose your own adventure there. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at path 1, and that is laid out in green. So we go through Kang, and then you kind of go up here, and you teleport up here, right behind Spider-Gwen, and you go through Angela. Now from there, you can go and you fight Gwenpool, and you come up here, and you teleport over, and you go through Civil Warrior. Now, once you get to Civil Warrior, that's when you're going to have the noted champs, and you're going to have Chaos and Power Gain. Now, the Power Gain's only 50% is what the mobs are going to have, and Chaos can kind of work in your favor. That's every time a special is thrown, each champion will either receive a buff or debuff. It just kind of is all RNG based. So with the Power Gain, it's only 50%. You're going to be baiting out a lot more specials here and then, but it's not that hard. Once you get into higher tiers of the game, though, it can go up to 200%, and that can be a little bit more tricky. Now, Chaos, like I said, is interesting because just going off RNG, you can get some pretty positive buffs like Regen, Fury, Precision, etc., etc., or you can get some really crappy debuffs like Bleed, Poison, Power Lock, Heal Block, that sort of thing. It's all RNG based. Now, if the RNG is not in your favor and you do get a debuff put on you and your opponent has a beneficial buff, you'll want to throw a special as soon as possible to get rid of that. One of the best scenarios is to get your opponent power locked and you get Regen or Fury or something, and then you essentially control the fight and you won't have to throw a special at all, which would be fantastic. Now, luckily with the Power Gain, you'll be able to manage the Chaos a little bit better. Okay. So anyway, continuing on. So like I said, you'll teleport over here. You'll go through Civil Warrior, Loki. He's not too bad. Definitely want to try to bait out those special 1s and special 2s. Be careful though, you're not too far away at the edge of the screen because punishing Loki's special 1 can be kind of tricky if you're too far away. Then we move on to Drax. Both of his specials are easy to evade, just where you don't get a bleed on you, and he does get those Furies, so he can hit kind of hard. Then we move over to Guillotine. Not hard. Dr. Voodoo, definitely keep him at his special 1. It's much more easy to evade than his special 2. Then we move on to Venom. And Venom, you're definitely going to want to bait out those special 1s over his special 2s. I feel like I'm going to say that for a lot of these champs, but with Venom and his special 2, he'll convert all of the buffs that he has up into Furies, and he's going to hit really hard. So be wary of that. Then we got Old Man Logan. Watch his heavies. Those can kind of be quick. Yondu, remember the Yaka arrow can go through your block and put a bleed on you. And then we go to Groot. Nothing too hard there. Bait out the special 1. Don't push him to his special 2. His special 2 is unblockable and he will regen. And then we go to Spider-Gwen, who again has the unblockable special 1. And finally on to the Collector. So not too bad. Those are pretty easy. So then we move on to path 2, which is in red, and honestly, I feel like path 2 might be the easiest, and I feel like for your first run, this is the path that you should do. Now, you'll either go through Spider-Man or Kang, and then you'll shoot up here to where we were before, you'll go through Angela, and then what you'll do is you'll go over through Falcon, and then come down here. Now, once you get to Venom, that's when you're going to fight your first noted boss. And these buffs here are Critical and Godslayer. They're nothing too hard. I forgot what I was going to say, but if we take a look at Godslayer here, it's nothing too much. The special attacks benefit from X%. The special attacks benefit from X% increased critical hit damage. So they're just going to hit a little bit harder. Nothing too bad there. So then we will go through, where we at here? Old Man Logan, Dr. Voodoo, Yondu, Nebula. So with Nebula, definitely bait out that special one. Be careful of her shocks. If she parries you or you get hit by a heavy, she's going to put a shock on you. Gamora, her special one will do a ton of damage, so be wary of that. Black Widow, definitely want to be careful of her evades. If you have like an ability, or if you have an anti-evasion champ, definitely may want to bring him in there. OG Daredevil, he's going to evade any projectile that you have. If you're bringing a champ whose specials rely heavily on projectiles, just go ahead and parry before you launch your special and he won't evade it there. Okay, and then we go again through Spider-Gwen, again, unblockable special one, and then on to the Collector. Okay, so now we're going on. Now I'm going to skip going over past 3, 4, and 6 because I actually have videos for them. So let's go ahead and go straight to path 5. So again, Kang or Spidey, dealer's choice. And then so what you're going to do is you're going to port over here. And now this one, these paths are Strike Back and Special Lock 1. So with Strike Back, you want to be careful where your opponent is in the bar of power, or not bar of power, but power level wise, because every time you launch a special, they're going to gain a bar of power. So you definitely want to try to keep them at less than 1 bar of power if possible when you launch your special. And you are going to be locked at Special Lock 1. Now, that might sound like a bad thing, but it's really not, because once you get a full bar of power, you're going to get a little debuff put on you. Now, if you have willpower, that debuff will help you to heal. So if you need to regen a little bit, don't launch your special one right away and you'll be good to go. Okay, so once we launch over here, we move over to Karnak. Not too bad. Definitely bait out that special one. Try not to push him to special 2. It does a ton of damage. Then we got Cable. Be wary of Cable. Don't want to bleed him. You'll get a degen put on you. Also, he'll get power gain and regen. So if you have it, he'll block champ. Definitely bring that in. Then we move over here to Yellow Jacket. If you're not that great at evading his special one, just try to block it. You don't want to get that power sting on you because either you're going to get stunned and he's going to come in and punch you in the face, or you're going to launch your special and you're going to lose a ton of damage due to that power sting. Then we move over here to Electro. Now with Electro, you're definitely going to want to bring someone with ability accuracy reduction to, mitigate that damage that you take from hitting him. So someone with like Blade with his danger sense is a good option. Omega Red, he doesn't take any damage with his tentacle hits from Electro. So that's another really good option. Someone that regens, or someone who make sure your make sure your champs are fully healed when going in to face Electro. All right, then we move on to Cosmic Spidey. Remember that he will evade after he launches his special. I try to push him to his special too. It's easy to dodge, and then you don't really have to worry too much about taking any punches or web shots to the face. Then we move on to Blue Cyclops. Nothing too special there. Both his specials are pretty easy to dodge. Then we move on to War Machine. Now with War Machine, he's going to get all those armors and those Furies up when he's down to his last little bit of pool of health. So if you can, nullify those, that would be great. Also, try pushing him to his special 2 over his special 1. That way you don't really have to worry about too much block damage. And we move on to Red Cyclops. Nothing too hard there. Excuse me. All right. And then we go ahead and we move over to Scarlet Witch. And she's got Power Leak and Resonance Cascade, and I'll go over that in the video with her, and then we move on to the Collector. Okay, so now that we've got the easy paths done, let's go ahead and take a look at these hard paths. So now we're going to start at path 3, And so I started out here with Kang, but like I said, it's your choice. He's unnoted. He just has the role reversal and the Bane. So he's pretty easy. I brought in Medusa here. Yeah, I have the class disadvantage here with role reversal, but with that, it's pretty negligible. You definitely want to bait out Kang's special 1. They're easy to evade. It's just like Iron Man's. Nothing too hard there. His special 2 is fully evadable, but it can be kind of tricky. So if you're not that great at it, if you haven't faced him that much, then definitely try evading his special 1s. It's a lot easier. Really, the only thing you got to pay attention to here is the Bane. And like I said before, countering Bane with, timing your hits after you parry, or, specials that have a lot of hits on them are great. So Medusa's really good for this. Her specials have a lot of hits off of them, especially her special 2. Blade's another really good option for it as well. All right, so now we are moving on to Iron Patriot, and he has Unblockable Finale and Outlast. Now, Unblockable Finale is your opponent will go unblockable at 25% health when they have 25% health remaining. And then Outlast is your damage is going to be reduced based on how much health they have left. So normally I would say bring in a power drain champ for this, but with Unblockable Finale, that's not always your best option, because you want them to throw those specials, especially if their specials are easy to punish if you're not that great at intercepting. And so with Iron Patriot, though, you definitely want to be wary of his arc overload. He'll regen and he'll gain power. So make sure he doesn't have more than 1 bar of power when that goes into effect, unless you have someone that can nullify it. Someone like Magic or Scarlet Witch, they're great options for that as well. Even Hood can put a stagger on it. Or if you bring in a heal block champ, that's another good option, so he doesn't regen all of that back. But overall, not a hard fight. Both Iron Patriot special 1s and special 2s are pretty easy to dodge. So had a nice intercept there with the special. So now he's got the arc overload, but not too worried there. Scarlet Witch nullified it, but I took some punches to the face. All right, so now we are moving on to Superior Iron Man, and like Iron Patriot, he has Unblockable Finale and Outlast. Now, another good way to deal with Unblockable Finale is to hold your specials until you get to the special 3 and until they are at 25% power. Now, or not power, 25% health. Now, that could take a while, so you could throw some specials in there too. But hopefully when you get them down to that will totally kill them, and you won't have to even worry about the Unblockable Finale. Or someone who puts a damage over time, like Starkey here, he's got the shock going on, so it's kind of the damage to the shock and the regen is about equal. All right, so now we are moving on to Deadpool. Now, Deadpool regens a lot, right? Now, he regens based on his power level, and then he also gets a regen too. So, definitely want to bring in a heal block champ here. Archangel is great for this. He's got a passive heal block with his neurotoxins. So, not only does he have that, but he also puts bleed and a poison on. So, you've got some real damaging effects. Just, heavy, get to your special 1, launch it. Just be wary of the Bane. It can be kind of tricky with Archangel with that Bane. So just be wary of that. Another good option for this would be Yondu. Yes, we would have class disadvantage again, but again, that is just pretty much negligible. Warlock, if you have Warlock, he's another really good option for that. Just you'll put that passive heal block on with his infections. All right, so now we're moving on to Deadpool X-Force, and like his red counterpart, he also has Unblockable Finale and Outlast. Now, the one thing you need to remember about Deadpool X-Force is you want to be careful of his power gain when he reaches 30% health. So when he reaches 30% health, he is going to power gain like crazy, and then when he reaches 25% health, he is going to go unblockable. So when he hits 30% health, you want to make sure he does not have more than 1 bar of power. If he does, he will be pushed to a special 3, and you're going to take a special 3 to the face. Now, that's going to inflict a huge bleed on you that you probably won't survive. So definitely bring in that. Bring in a champ with like ability, you could power lock him with magic, or you could even nullify his power gain with Scarlet Witch there. But, or you can also do the chain stun method here with OG Daredevil. OG Daredevil is great for this path. just for the main fact that he stuns off his special. Any champ that's going to put a stun on after their special is great for this path. So now we're moving on to Punisher. And he's got Unblockable, Finale, and Outlast. And the thing that's kind of a pain in the ass about Punisher is that Endure that he gets at the end. So that can be kind of tricky with Bane and Unblockable Finale. Right? Right. So the thing too you want to remember about Punisher is both of his specials, even just through block damage, do a ton of damage. So you're definitely going to want to bring in a champ that can evade those projectiles, making OG Daredevil an excellent option for this fight. Now, you could also bring in someone with ability accuracy reduction to kind of help maybe counter that Endure at the end, so you don't have to deal with that last 1% where you think he's done, but then he's not done. But if you can, bait out those special ones over those special twos. If you don't have someone, if you don't bring in OG Daredevil to evade those projectiles, again, putting someone who can chain stun is great. So OG Daredevil is great for this. He stuns off both his special 1 and his special 2. And just pay attention to that Bane timer. You definitely want to be wary of that. Don't want to have that Bane put on you too long. All right, now we're moving on to Hulk with Unblockable, Finale, and Outlast. Now, Hulk can be kind of a pain in the ass because the lower his health gets, the harder he hits. Definitely be careful of that special too. If he hits you with it, it's going to do a ton of damage. So be wary of that. I found, like I said before, OG Daredevil works great for this lane, not only because of his auto evade, but for his stun, which allows you to transfer that Bane back real quick. And if you time his specials right, you are potentially being able to chain stun your opponent for almost the entire fight, which is great for that Bane and for that Unblockable Finale. So keep that in mind if you have any champs that can chain stun. So, Gambit, he can stun off his special 1. So he would be another really good option for this. So just be careful of this. Other than that, it's a pretty standard Hulk fight. Don't push him to that special 3 because that is something that you will not survive. Starkey is another really good option for Hulk. You can evade, get those poise charges. So the more poise charges you have, up to 10, the more damage you're going to do. All right, so now we are moving on to Iceman, who has Power Leak and Resonance Cascade. Now, they're pretty self-explanatory. Power Leak is basically, there's a chance that the critical hits are going to cause power to leak from you over time. And then Resonance Cascade is critical hits increase critical rate by X%. So not that bad. You want to make sure you have either someone that is immune to Frostbite and Cold Snap for this fight, or that your champ is fully healed, because you're going to take a lot of damage from that otherwise. All right, so now we are moving on to Scarlet Witch, and like Iceman, she's got Power Leak and Resonance Cascade. Now for Scarlet Witch, you're going to want to bring in a Poison Immune champ. Otherwise, she will kill you. And the reason she will do that is because, number one, she'll put at least 1 poison on you, and then she will heal block you. So you want to make sure you've got a Poison Immune champ on your team. Hulk is good for that. Another good one is Omega Red. He's another great one. Or one of the techs. They're another really good option. Okay, so now that we've done Path 3, so then once you fight Scarlet Witch, you move on to the Collector. All right, so now that we have done Path 3, let's go ahead and look at Path 4. And so for Path 4, I decided to start out with Spidey here. And Spidey, not too hard, just you got that Bane, and then you also want to be wary of his evades. So if you have an anti-evade champ on your team like Venom, Venom is great for the Spideys. He would be a decent option for this Spidey. All right, so now we're moving on to Juggernaut, and Juggernaut has Villainy and Tyranny. Now, Villainy is villains periodically gain cruelty, which increases their critical damage, and Tyranny is only villains gain power. So keep that in mind for this path, because all the mobs on this path have Villainy and Tyranny. So if you bring in a hero, you're not going to gain any power. So if you don't rely on your specials, that's fine. If you want to rely on your specials, go through your champs and see which ones are tagged as villains. So I decided to bring in Omega Red here, got my power, I'm able to lifesteal and power steal, which is great. Omega Red is good for this path, plus you can do damage with those spores just standing beside them. Hood is a really good champion for this path, and the reason for that is he gets that stagger on. So for someone like Juggernaut is not going to go unstoppable unless, Juggernaut is not going to go unstoppable while he has the stagger on. So you don't have to worry about when he's unstoppable, whether or not the Bane's going to get transferred back onto you or not. You don't have to worry about that with Hood. He's a highly underrated champ, and he's great for this path. So now we're moving on to Joe Fixit. And again, villainy and tyranny. So Hood, again, we've got actually the class advantage going on here since it is role reversal. And so with Joe Fixit, I prefer trying to push him to a special 2. I think it's a lot easier to dodge. If you can't get him to a special 2, just dodge the headbutt and block the bullets. You'll take some block damage from the bullets, but it's nothing extravagant. So now, overall, this path it's not a typically hard path. You're not facing really any hard champs on this path. It's really just the nodes that you have to worry about, this villainy and tyranny node. And really it's just the tyranny node, because if you bring in a hero, if you figure most of your champs, well, probably half of your champs are tagged as heroes, right? So that limits half of your roster at a minimum. So in order to gain power. So keep that in mind. Now there are ways around it where if you can place a damage over time debuff on, if you're a hero with someone like Blade, and then that's perfectly fine. Just remember though, if you have an awakened Blade, he heals from his specials. So you're not going to be able to regen with Blade like you think you will. So you would just be fighting with like an unawakened Blade. Speaking of Blade. So now we're moving on to Crossbones. And with Crossbones, you definitely want to bait out that special 1. It's pretty easy to dodge. It's just 2 hits that you want to just dash back on twice. Nothing too hard. What you want to make sure of with Crossbones is that when you parry him, you actually parry him and that he doesn't shrug off your parry, even though it says parry, and you go to hit and he ends up punching you in the face. So when you parry Crossbones, make sure that he is absolutely stunned before you go into attack. Because again, you don't want to get punched in the face. But overall, not too bad. All right, so now we're moving on to Hood with the villainy and tyranny. Definitely try to sort through your champs before you start this path. Like I said, try to figure out who's a hero, who's a villain. Look at the tags. Look at the ones to see who are going to be most useful for you. If you don't think you'll have a villain that will work, definitely go with a hero. I mean, Ghost Rider is only going to get 3 of his judgments here, right? If he's awakened. If he's not awakened, he'll only get 2. So be mindful of that. He won't get his Fury if he's not awakened. So you won't get the full potential of your heroes versus from your villains. So keep that in mind. Just know your limitations of your roster when selecting a hero over a villain. And with Hood, definitely bait out those special ones. And it seems like with Hood, once you get one special one out of him, he just starts chain throwing those special ones. So they're pretty easy to bait out after that. But overall, not a hard fight. Just a lot of hits with Ghost Rider. All right, so now we're moving on to Villainy and Tyranny Magneto. And unless you're really great at dodging that special 1, dodging that special 2, try to keep him at a special 1. It's a lot easier to dodge. Now, see, I got the Bane transferred on me there, but we got it over back to Magneto pretty quick. Sentinel is another really good option for this. He can put damage over time. He's got a heal block. Plus he's tagged as a villain, so you will get power. He's not exactly great for that fight because of the magnetized. Alright, so now we're moving on to Ronin with Villainy and Tyranny. Now, both of Ronin's specials, they're pretty easy to dodge. You just want to make sure that you do dodge it and you don't get hit by it, because both his specials do have the potential to stun you. And if you get hit by it, they will stun you and he will come in and hit you in the face. So definitely be careful of that. But if you have the Blade, with the Ghost Rider synergy, this path is great for him. He won't get his specials, Blade won't get his specials, but he'll still get the extra damage. He'll still get his danger sense, since all of these champs are marked as villains. So keep that in mind, even if you don't have a villain champ that you think could work that well for this path, but you have Blade and Ghost Rider. Alright, so next we are moving on to Abomination with Villainy and Tyranny, and you're definitely going to want to get a poison immune champ on your team here. Otherwise, he will poison you. Sentinel is perfect for this, even though I do kind of mess up a little bit. But Sentinel is perfect for this. Both of Abomination's specials are pretty easy to dodge. His special 1 is much easier to dodge over special 2. His special 1 is just that headbutt right there, just a simple dash back, nothing too hard. But Omega Red is great for this too. Omega Red is another champ that's really great for this path. You can get the damage, you can get the power gain, and then you'll also get the damage from his spores if he's awakened. So keep that in mind when you're coming through. If you do have an awakened Omega Red, he's going to be great for this path. So, and plus with Omega Red, he can power steal and life steal. So any champ that can, life steal or regen is going to help to save you some pots and revives for this chapter, or for this path, I should say. So keep that in mind as well when going through and selecting out your champs. All right, so now we're moving on to Villainous and Tyrannous. King Groot. King Groot can just be a long fight, especially because he gets that regen. Definitely bait out that special 1 over the special 2. It's easy to dodge and easy to punish, that's for sure. He will regen, and then if he's not regenning, he will have Furies up. Be careful when you parry him when he has his Furies up that he doesn't shrug those and end up punching you in the face when you want to punch him in the face instead. So be mindful of that. A champ that can nullify those buffs would be great in here as well. I'm not really sure of any villains that can do that besides Hood, but Hood would be great for this. Put that stagger on, limit those Furies, that sort of thing, and the regen too. So, or a heal block champ if you got a villain that can do heal block like Sentinel. Sentinel's got heal block, so he's another really good option for this, and he would have the class advantage since it's role reversal. But otherwise, this is a long fight with poor Ghost Rider. Blade with the danger sense, again, you get that extra damage going forth from it, so that's pretty good. But again, with Blade, you won't be able to heal because of the Tyranny node that will prevent you from getting power since you're labeled as a hero. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so now we're moving on to Ultron. And like the others, he's got Villainy and Tyranny. And remember that Ultron regens at 50 and 25% health, so make sure you are able to stun him when he gets down to those percentages so that he doesn't regen back. Now, you also want to be careful of Ultron's evades, so be careful of his evades so he doesn't come back and hit you in the face. Now, Blade actually really does help with those evades with the Ghost Rider synergy, and so that'll help out with that with his danger sense. All right, so now we're moving on to Scarlet Witch with Power Leak and Resonance Cascade. Now, we don't fight Iceman on this path because we kind of went in between them. So once we fight Scarlet Witch again here, we go and we move on to the Collector. So let's go ahead and take a look at Path 6. So you can either go through Kang or Spidey. And then what you're going to do is you're going to move to OG Vision. Now, OG Vision has Plague Mind and Transducer. Now, Plague Mind is when your power is drained after a certain amount of time. So be careful of that. Watch the little timer. See a little gray timer above you. Underneath your health bar there, that keeps track of the Plague Mind. And it also has Transducer. Now, Transducer is the defender rewards more power when struck, but its present drains the attacker's power. You don't really need to pay too much attention to that. You just kind of want to pay attention to the Plague Mind and the Bane. Now, with OG Vision here, definitely pay attention to his synthesis. You don't want to push him too far, so he ends up, synthesizing and going to a special 3, and then you'll end up eating a special 3, and that is no bueno. So if you can bring in a power lock champ that, power drains or power locks after their special 1, that's a good option. But both of his specials are pretty easy to dodge, so no real worries there. Just pay attention to the Bane and your Plague Mind, and you should be good to go. Alright, so now we're moving on to Magic with Plague Mind and Transducer. Now, Quake is great for Bane. If you can play Quake, you will be great for this because you won't get that Bane on you as long as they don't touch you and you don't touch them. So if you can Quake it, Quake and bake. Another good option is Domino. Domino does a ton of damage. She can, get the crit, bleed, that sort of thing. Blade is the magic killer, so if you have Blade, definitely bring him in for that. Alright, so now we're moving on to Hawkeye with Plague Mind and Transducer. Now it seems like with all of these champs on this path, you'll notice they all either have power drain or power gain, so they have some element of that. But other than that, this is pretty much just your standard Hawkeye fight. Any champ that you're going to bring in against him is probably going to work out well. Both of Hawkeye's specials are pretty easy to avoid, so just keep that in mind. If you're worried about the Plague Mind, definitely bring in someone who's going to do a lot of damage off their special 1 versus their special 2. So Corvus isn't always as great for this because he does so much damage off his special 2. If you can get it up to it though, like Starkey, we just got up to the special 2 there, so that worked out well. But overall, not hard. So now we're moving on to Doctor Strange with Plague Mind and Transducer. Definitely want to bait out those special ones. You want to try, with Doctor Strange, this can become a little bit more complicated because you want to try to launch your special when he doesn't have his armor up, so you can do the most damage to him. So keep that in mind. Pay attention to your power and pay attention to his buffs that he has going on. But his special 1 is probably the easiest of his specials to dodge. So now we're moving on to Winter Soldier with Plague Mind and Transducer. And Winter Soldier, he's really not a hard champ to fight. Anyone will do against him. Definitely try to bait out those special 1s over the special 2. You'll take less damage, and his special 1 is fully evadable. His special 2, not so much, but Archangel does a quick, easy breezy job with that. Alright, so now we're moving on to Psylocke with Plague Mind and Transducer. Both of Psylocke's specials are pretty easy to dodge, but her special 1 is definitely the most easiest is the easiest of the two. You can see right here where we're going to dodge the special 2. You want to dodge back as soon as she kind of almost lunges forward with that. But overall, Psylocke's not a hard champ to fight. She was kind of a little tricky when she was first introduced. Now remember too, Psylocke has a really long reaching heavy, so be careful of that. And then we go through Iceman and Scarlet Witch with Resonance and Cascade before we hit the Collector. Okay, now it's time to tackle the Collector. Now unfortunately, there is no really easy way to take this guy down. So let's look at his abilities and different ways to deal with them. Now first, every champ is supposed to have class disadvantage against him, but with role reversal, it's kind of unclear if all champs actually have class advantage. Now when this first came out, I know this question was asked, but I'm not totally sure if Kabam even really answered it. Either way, it doesn't matter. Alright, so as you get him down, he goes through these phases, and you'll have to change your strategy for every phase. First thing you need to keep in mind is that he shrugs off debuffs at a 55% rate. So at the beginning of the fight, he can shrug off your parry and wreck you. Even if he hits you once, you will get the Bane timer on you, and it is instant death. So every time you parry, make sure you wait a second to ensure that the parry took before you go in attacking all balls to the wall. Now, as you take him down, he's going to activate these things called relics that will make him more difficult. Once you get him down to 85%, he activates a protection factor that will not allow him to take more than 3% damage from one source. Now, this isn't that much of an issue because of his massive health pool. At 70% health, he gets an armor and crit buff, but not too much to deal with because if you're going to get hit, you're going to get wrecked anyway. Now, once he hits 55% is when things start to get more difficult. At this health, his specials become unblockable. Before this point, you could block his specials, so champs like Cap America and, high armor champs were great for this portion of the fight. Using champions that bleed or place a debuff, in this range, they can help you out a lot. He will shrug some of them off, but the more damage, the better. Now, to deal with his unblockable specials, you can evade the first part of the special and then block the second part. In reality, trying to power lock him, though, is the best way to go once he gets to this portion of his health. So, your classic power lock champs will work great here. So, you got Magic, Vision, Dr. Voodoo, Hawkeye, Doc Ock. They're all great options for this. Now, using champs that evade is also another great strategy. When I went through this, I used a maxed OG Daredevil and it was ideal. Now, you have a lot more options nowadays with Starkey and some of the other Spider-Men, including Spider-Gwen. Now, you can also use champs with mechanics like Ghost, Hood, Invisible Woman, and Ebony Maw if you hate your life. Now, once you get him down to 40%, he becomes immune to bleed, poison, and power lock. So some of the champs that you are using to get him down become less effective. However, you can still use magic to drain his power, but you'll be unable to power lock him. At 25%, he periodically becomes unstoppable. Now, this is not on a timer, so it's kind of a pain to deal with, and this is when I feel like he's at his hardest. On the upside, though, his health is so low that the Bane is not much of an issue, so you can really focus on other aspects of the fight. There is a little delay from when the unstoppable timer appears and when he actually goes unstoppable. Now, champs that can counter the unstoppable, like She-Hulk, Spider-Gwen, and Captain America Infinity War, are great for this portion of the fight. At 10%, Overload Relic kicks in and he gets a regen periodically. Again, not on a timer, but it's pretty weak, so I wouldn't even bother really focusing in on it. Now, I don't want to focus too much on what champs are the best because there are so many now that can control different aspects of the fight. When this chapter first came out, that wasn't true. Now, I will be putting some links into the description for some other videos that can help you out with this fight because getting the most information that you can is the best way to get him down. Some of the things I want to focus on, though, is mainly how to deal with the mechanics. This node having Bane makes it so much more difficult. It's almost as if the AI knows when to hold a special and when to throw it to get the Bane on you. Now, his specials are long and they're hard to punish, so you'll need to play around with this. What I like to do at the beginning of the fight is to get the Bane on him and then wait till I can instantly transfer it back to him before pushing him to his first special. If you go in all balls to the wall, you will push him to his special one right as that Bane timer is ticking down, and then you'll get the Bane on you, and then you'll pretty much die instantly. So, and I find that this is when people are most likely to die in this fight. Of course, as the fight goes on, though, the Bane is less potent and you won't have to worry about it so much. Now, evading a special one is all about timing. You want to dash back as soon as the wave is about to hit you, similarly like what you would do from Havoc, and then block the rest. From some videos, I have seen it can be fully evaded, but it seems pretty tricky. Manually evading his special 2 can be done also, but it's so fast that I've only seen it done, a few times. And this is where OG Daredevil shines because you don't got to worry about manually evading. Now, if this is your first time going up against this guy, I would definitely bring in a team that can handle different aspects of the Collector's Relics phases. Be prepared to spend units on revives, again, if this is your first time going in against this guy. Once you get this guy down, move on and finish the rest of Act 5. I think this was like the last chapter I completed 100% because of this fight. Getting him down once will give you the uncollected title, and it'll open up more aspects and more opportunities in the game for you to grow and to grow your roster, get more powerful champs, so you can come in and annihilate this guy later on. But that's all that I got. That's it for the Collector Abrogation. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, who you've used against the collector, or who you will be using. Was this helpful? And let's discuss. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you guys liked what you saw and you want to see more, please remember to like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and hit me up in the Discord chat. Thanks, guys. Bye.